25 fragrances? Nani? Nani? Hey friends, how's it going? Ash here, welcome back to Gents. Today I've got for you 25 fragrance wardrobe essentials. Each one of these would be an amazing addition to anybody's collection, and what I've got for you basically spans everything. Niche, clone, designer, cheap, expensive, every season, it's all here. Since there are so many fragrances today, we're gonna try to go through them a little bit quicker than usual. They will all be linked in the description, check them out down there. And if you want some codes, pause the video now, here's some codes. Got them? Good. Use those. And none of my fragrances that I creatively directed are in today's list, but they are right there. And they're also at every Perfumania and fragrance outlet store in the country, so check them out there. Blue Ridge, Terra Nova, Jet Black Enigma. You can also find them on those websites for those stores. Okay, no particular order. Let's do it. Just reach and grab. All right, Prada Homme is first up. It's not quite as hyped as it was when it first came out, and also when the line was really still alive, because there's not been a Prada Homme fragrance, a new one, for years at this point, which is a sad thing. Prada Homme Intense F's in the chat if you're in the US, was probably the best one in the line, but can't really find that one now. So we're gonna go with the original Prada Homme. This one is clean, it's soapy, a little bit powdery, good amount of iris in here, a fantastic office fragrance, a great spring fragrance, summer fragrance really, as long as you don't go crazy heavy, and fall. It does lean more as a daytime type of scent than an evening fragrance, but if you want something very classy, easy to wear, again with that kind of powdery, soapy feel, check this out. It's really good stuff. I love you, Prada Homme. You deserve better. Prada, don't kill off the Prada Homme line. Bring it back. Even if you have to reimagine it, bring it back. After that, we'll go with Mancera Red Tobacco. With this being a Mancera from discounters, it's pretty cheap as far as niche fragrances go. It has massive performance. This stuff lasts forever. It projects heavily. It's a real beast. So when you consider it doesn't cost that much and you get amazing performance, there's a lot of bang for buck with this one. It also has a really sweet, attention-grabbing scent profile. You have tobacco in there, a ton of spices. The only caveat with this, the only potential drawback, is that the opening is strong. It packs a big punch. There's a lot going on when you first spray this on. So there is the possibility that you or somebody else may not like this the first time that you smell it, because that opening, as I said, it can be aggressive, but as it dries down, it is awesome. And it smells absolutely killer in the air, especially in cooler weather. Let's go with this one next, CK1 Shock. Now I filmed a review like a month ago of CK1 Shock that, as of when I'm filming this video, is still not live, but I'll put it out eventually. CK1 Shock is another fragrance that's a bit of a former hype beast. For a long time, this was one of the big cheap fragrances that everybody said you had to get. Good performance, attention grabbing, fairly unique, a nice sweetness to it, kind of a tobacco vibe going on there. CK1 Shock still to this day is very good and extremely inexpensive. You can find this sometimes right around $20 for this size bottle, 50 mils, and even like a 200 milliliter size bottle doesn't cost that much either. So even though it was really hyped at one point as one of the #1 go-to cheapies, nowadays not hyped quite as much, which makes it kind of a sleeper fragrance that you don't have to pay much to pick up. That has great usability. Let's see. All right, Montblanc is up next. Did Mancera, so I guess Montblanc. This is Honey Oud, and this is pretty much my favorite oud fragrance from Montblanc. Now, Montblanc and Mancera both are really well known for their oud fragrances, and both well known for what I said earlier, big performance and not costing that much as far as niche fragrances go. And both of those things are true for this one as well. One thing with Montblanc oud fragrances though, is they can be hard to pull off. We'll say that much. Montblanc ouds are often described as being screechy ouds, and if you don't know what I mean, seek out a few Montblanc fragrances that feature oud prominently, then you'll know. Honey Oud, thankfully not as screechy. The honey helps balance it, gives it a nice sweetness, which melds nicely with the natural sweetness of the oud note used here. It does have big performance, so it's another one of those fragrances that is gonna get you seen or smelled. But I think if you're starting off with oud fragrances over on the Montblanc Mancera side of things and you want one that is oud forward but is still wearable, that's where you start. Let's go next with this guy. Ombre leather from Tom Ford. Pretty easy choice, I feel like. Ombre leather, extremely high quality, as you would expect from Tom Ford. Also fairly expensive, as you would expect from Tom Ford. Ooh, yeah, it smells great. It's another fragrance that balances out a note that is sometimes more divisive, harder to wear for some people, leather in this circumstance, with a nice bit of sweetness and a floral touch that's done expertly. It's extremely classy, sexy, easy to pull off, and just one of the go-to leather fragrances for me. Both this one and the Parfum and Tuscan leather as well, all from Tom Ford. So ombre leather, this is one of the best, one of the go-to leather fragrances on the market. Let's throw it back a little bit with La Nuit de l'Homme, the original from YSL. So this is known as a big time date night fragrance, and it is. Yeah, it's a really good one. The cardamom in here just smells fantastic. The opening is extremely appealing. And for fragrances like this, you know, designer fragrances where people are shopping for them in places like Macy's or Sephora, it's important to nail the opening because your average person is going in, they're doing what I just did. They're spraying it on a tester strip along with probably 15 other things. And they're going, yes or no. It's like that. So the opening, you gotta nail it. And this one does. That cardamom smells amazing off the top. It's got a little bit of a zinginess to it. It's sweet, it's sexy, it's alluring, but then it does the dry down very well also, which is important for a date night fragrance because if you're spraying it on, going on a date, you don't want the opening to smell great, but then you get there and the dry down is completely fallen apart. It has been bagged on for its performance over the years, but I think the performance is completely fine for the type of fragrance that it is. And if you want it to last a little bit longer or project a little bit more, spray more of it on. Let's switch it up. Next up, Lalique White. This is one that you can get for a pretty good price from discounters typically, not very expensive, as most Lalique fragrances are or are not. They're not expensive. This one has a great freshness to it, a little bit of spice in there as well, black pepper, you have lemon leaf, and then as it dries down, a good amount of woods that come out. Also a nice bergamot there off the top that gives you a slight hint of juicy citrus. It smells a bit like Galloway from Parfum de Marley, only way more affordable and in my opinion, a better buy overall than the Parfum de Marley. Also makes a killer daytime fragrance, casual fragrance, or office fragrance. It's very likable. Let's go with the cologne next. We'll go with this Kismet Angel. This is from Maison Alhambra, and it is a clone of Angel Share from By Kilian. Now, if you wanted to spend more money and get Angel Share, yeah, go for it. But if you want to save money or you don't have the money to spend right now to pick up Angel Share, that will get the job done for you. Also, Camra will get the job done for you. That one is by Lattafa, and Lattafa and Maison Alhambra, they're the same company pretty much. So this one is typically a little bit easier to find and also a little bit cheaper than Camra. So this is gonna give you that boozy sweetness that Angel Share has, that Camra has. It's another one that in the air is just a showstopper, a scene stealer. It's the type of fragrance that makes people take notice. And for the price point, this is an absolute steal. Great fall, winter fragrance, amazing evening or date fragrance also. Now I'm gonna go with Neo from Xerjoff. I gotta tell you, this right here, this is one of the best smelling citrus fragrances out there. The opening of this is just lights out. This is one of those ones that I first sampled many years ago because I had heard, hey man, this is one of the best, as I said, citrus fragrances. And at the time I was looking for a lot of just really high-end citrus scents, you know, stuff that was gonna be a step or two or three or four or five above what other people had. So I tried that out, got a sample, was blown away, got a bottle, which unfortunately I don't have too much left of. Really green, very green, and I'm a fan of that. If you don't like green notes, if you don't like green in fragrances, you may not enjoy this one because there is a good amount of green in the opening with that citrus, but it's also at the same time a juicy, fresh, enlivening, brisk. Just smells to die for, love it. They have changed the bottle style. This is the old bottle style. They used to have problems with these where they would break pretty easily, especially in transit. Like the corner would get hit and it would just bust the whole bottle. So they switched up the style, but still, either bottle style is great. Oh man, we got a lot to go. I gotta speed it up. Okay, Dior Homme Intense up next. Iris, do you love it? If the answer is yes, get it. If the answer is no, get it. You may not like it though if you don't really like Iris a whole bunch. It does have a makeup-y Iris, kind of a lipsticky Iris, as it's been said a million times. But it also has this great creaminess, bit of sweetness, woodiness underneath it. Extremely classy. One of the best formal fragrances ever made, period. Dior is unfortunately moving away from that Iris a little bit, but to be fair to Dior, sometimes you do need to, you know, reinvent what you're doing fragrance-wise. Still yet, get this while you can. Then I'm gonna go with the new Acqua It is Parfum. Smells a little similar to Acqua Profumo, which this is essentially replacing. So you have Acqua Eau de Toilette, Eau de Parfum, and now Acqua Parfum. It doesn't have so much that incense that Acqua Profumo had. Instead, it has a touch more of kind of a green aspect to it, which makes sense. Green notes, green period in fragrances is getting more popular, and that does bring it in line a little bit with like what they've done with Profundo, the Eau de Parfum. Still though, it has that Acqua DNA, amazing for summertime, for daytime, for the office, big compliment puller. Just a great fragrance. Although there were some issues for me with this one when I got it. The bottle was leaky, the atomizer got stuck, and the atomizer does still sometimes get stuck on this. Thankfully, I think it's working now. Yes. Up next, we got African leather. Memo Paris. So we talked about cardamom with La Nuit de l'Homme, cardamom in here also. And it is just amazing. I love the cardamom in this. It is maybe some people would say more like a designer niche fragrance, whereas designer sensibilities, and by that I mean it's made to be worn and worn a bunch. You do have leather in there, but maybe not as much as you would expect with it being called African leather. Again, more of a focus on cardamom initially, mixing with leather, and then vetiver comes in as it dries down, and that mixes with leather, so leather is never really the star of the show. For me, it's mainly that cardamom and then the vetiver and the dry down. Really, really, really good stuff though. Then we got Prada again with Luna Rossa Carbon. Smells like Dior Sauvage to an extent, so very similar to Sauvage. If you know how Sauvage smells, you got a really good idea of how that smells, only this is gonna be a little bit smoother, less aggressive with the metallic feeling off the top, a little bit cleaner. So basically Dior Sauvage with Prada sensibilities. It's gonna give you the same versatility, wearability of Sauvage though, and sometimes you can find it for a bit cheaper than Sauvage. So that's a nice positive too. Oops. Then we're gonna go Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Italian Love. Unfortunately, sometimes a little bit difficult to find at discounters is Italian Love. I'm gonna spray it just because I like that opening. Yeah, it's good. Man, yeah, I love it. It's rindy. It's a rindy citrus, so you have to like that. It's not as rindy as Light Blue Forever was. I like that one too though, don't get me wrong, I like it a bunch. It's actually back there. But, so this one shares some similarities with Forever, actually a good amount of similarities with Forever. It's very citrus forward, and as I said, it has that rindiness, so a little sour, a little sweet, very eye-opening, perfect summertime fragrance. Love this. Encre Noir is up next. If I can face it the correct way. Encre Noir. This one is a cheapie. You can get it from discounters for very little. It is a little bit of a fragrance community darling, where it's been touted as one of the best cheapies that you can get for many years. And I do think it is. Actually, quality-wise, that is amazing. The bang for buck there, almost unheard of. It's vetiver forward. It has a darkness to it, earthiness, a rootiness to it, and that's going to turn some people off. It's a bit too dark for some people, and vetiver in general is a note that some people can't mess with, but I think in terms of quality, that is insane. I actually find it fairly easy to wear myself, but I've been wearing vetiver fragrances for a long time. If you have not, that may not be a safe choice for you, but worst comes to worst, you're only out like 25 bucks potentially, so yeah, could be worse. Go with another cheapie. Tommy Bahama Set Sail St. Barts. This one is essentially the cheap alternative to Virgin Island water from Creed, because you can get this for under $30, 100 ml size bottle. The one drawback with this fragrance is it's an eau de cologne, so it doesn't have great performance. But you can spray it on really heavily to make up for that, and because it is so cheap, if you go through a bottle, you can buy another one and not be out that much money. Perfect beach fragrance, vacation fragrance, you know, high heat situation, middle of summer, daytime fragrance, cookout fragrance, whatever. It has the same tropical, it's got the same tropical drink with kind of a sea salty flair that Virgin Island water has. Now this is a 2-for-1. Parfums de Marley Layton and Sedley. So Layton, that's fall, winter. Sedley, that's spring, summer. Layton has a million different clones out there, so if you don't want to pay Layton prices, there are a bunch of alternatives. I'm not gonna list all those out. I've covered a bunch on my channel over the years. But there are a lot out there. So this is gonna give you cardamom and apple, a very warm, spicy, sexy, sweet winter fragrance. One of the most hyped, most beloved niche fragrances out there as far as just wearable ones goes. And then Sedley is gonna give you a very fresh, clean, out of the shower, almost shower gel kind of scent profile, but done at a high level. Then we have Terre d'Hermès Eau Givre. This was the fragrance of the year for 2022 as voted on by the Fragrance Foundation. It actually beat my fragrance, Terra Nova. Terra Nova made it to the finals, and then I got dunked on by Hermès. Dang it. But I'm not mad because that's actually great. Love that scent. If I were gonna lose, like this is who I wanna lose to, right? Because this is one that just puts a smile on my face. The citron in the opening here is just awesome. It's a really natural smelling citron. It has a touch of rindiness, but not as much as light blue Italian love, so a little more wearable for some people, I'd say, than the light blue. I just keep and then a really nice woody dry down that's modern and fresh. That is, for me, a near perfect summertime scent. We have 7 more. Now we go faster. Mustache Eau de Parfum from Rocus. Smells similar to Tuxedo from Yves Saint Laurent, which is much more expensive, though it does its own thing as well. Another one with great spiciness and an ambery resinous warmth and sweetness. Extremely classy as well. Presentation looks good. It's not too expensive from discounters. It was a heavily hyped fragrance for a while, and for good reason. This stuff is awesome. And since we're in that kind of mode, Jazz Club up next from Maison Margiela. A boozy fragrance, so a nice kind of alcohol touch, and then a little bit of tobacco and a bit of smoke as well. Basically, it's supposed to smell like a jazz club. One of, if not the most popular fragrances from Maison Margiela, and with good reason, a perfect fall and wintertime fragrance that people absolutely love, with great bang for your buck as well. It is sometimes hard to find discounted, but if you are patient, you can usually find it for under $100, and at that price point, it's great, it's a steal. Let's keep it going with more tobacco. Late Harvest from Fort and Manley up next. Now this is a personal love. It is not as wearable as Mustache or Jazz Club, or most of the things in this list, to be frank. This is for lovers of tobacco, like the smell of tobacco. So to an extent, some people may see it as more of like a slight novelty fragrance, but I don't think so. The tobacco leaf here is just so good. It's close to photorealistic, like a dried pipe tobacco. A bit of fruit, but not too much. A lot of fruity tobacco fragrances will have like a syrupy fruitiness that kind of overtakes the tobacco and, you know, has a lot more kind of riding on top of the tobacco. Whereas this really highlights the tobacco and then other things support that note. Love it. Le Male Parfum up next. Most all of you know this. It is basically an evolution of the Le Male DNA. A lot of iris in there as a supporting note. Modernizes it, makes it a bit darker, becomes more of an evening fragrance, more of a dressed up fragrance as well. A great compliment pulling scent, and I think a perfect evolution, as I said, of the original, which is at this point a bit too played out, but this is awesome. Let's go classy with Acqua de Parma Colonia Essenza up next. So this is the type of fragrance that you're gonna wear more to the office, formal occasions, dressed up type occasions. It has that classy, gentlemanly DNA, kind of a throwback style, an Italian style cologne. A little green, aromatic, and just a perfect scent for daytime use. Just about any time of year. Annie up next from Nashani. That is a niche fragrance for lovers of vanilla. Has a really appealing zestiness to it, like a bright, jumping kind of effervescence in the opening, like a fruity, fresh, spicy kind of pop, and then that vanilla is along the edges, and as it dries, it becomes more and more prominent. One of the best from the house, in Nashani, a house that you can get from discounters for pretty good prices also. Last but not least, why Eau de Toilette. Now, a lot of people would say why Eau de Parfum, and that's a great choice as well. Why Eau de Toilette, though, I think has a little more versatility when we're talking about office usage, casual usage, date night usage, stuff like that. Why Eau de Parfum hits a bit harder. It's got more sweetness to it, has a little more projection, a little more pop. but this has that same DNA, just made, as I said, a little more versatile, usable. It gets overlooked, but it works just as well in terms of pulling attention as the Eau de Parfum, as long as you spray enough on to get noticed. And that is the reformulation, which I think is actually better than the original. So there we go, 25, technically 26 fragrances. Thank you guys for hanging with me if you were here until the end. I know that's a lot of stuff. Stay safe out there. I will see you tomorrow with another fragrance video, guys. See you later.